Hello, everyone. We are so excited to have Shri with us from Janssen Pharmaceuticals, a subsidiary of J&J, our sponsor. We're talking about CaringCrowd projects today, and Shri's run two successful projects, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the lessons he learned from successful projects on CaringCrowd. So stick around. You don't want to miss this episode.
Welcome to the Your Mark on the World show with your champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
This episode is made possible via the support of our sponsors, including Johnson & Johnson's CaringCrowd. Shri, welcome to the show.
Hi, Devin. How are you?
Well, I'm well. I'm excited to be talking to you, and I'm excited about the lessons you can teach us. But before we jump into your insights, and I do look forward to getting them, I want to talk a little bit about the two nonprofits that you supported. You did one fundraiser for Polaris, which is a modern slavery nonprofit, and another for the Giffords Law Center to prevent gun violence. How did you pick those projects?
Yeah, thank you very much, Devin, for, of course, having me on the show. It's interesting being on this side, both as a listener and now, being the interviewee. But I picked both of those nonprofits mainly because they're supporting public health research and causes. So, a lot of people don't automatically think of gun violence as a public health issue or even human trafficking as a public health issue. But, obviously with CaringCrowd, I had to go through a lot of justification. But I really picked those two nonprofits in particular because I felt that they could use the money the most and, expand their impact with the funds that I'd be able to accrue by myself. So I really picked those profits as they're already doing so much in the space. And then I knew this would help exponentiate their efforts.
Oh, well, that's excellent. And it is such an important point. CaringCrowd exists to help nonprofits exclusively nonprofits in the global health arena. But that global health definition is pretty broad, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yep, it is. I think now with CaringCrowd, how we're looking at it is not just it has to be a public health nonprofit, but what we're saying is that all of the projects now have to have a positive public health outcome. So it's more outcome focused rather, in the deliverable. So you're right. It is a broad term though. So, that's usually what we're usually.
Yeah. I think most people who get shot with a gun feel that makes them less healthy. And so it does make sense that gun safety would be a public health initiative, but our minds are kind of conditioned to think about public health as infectious disease. So great discussion. I really appreciate you taking a minute on that. Now you've got these three lessons that you've learned. Tell us about lesson one.
Yeah, for sure. And Devin, I just want to put in a little plug for yourself because we connected because you had come to J&J and gave a great seminar. I think everyone was just on their feet at the end, just giving you a big round of applause. And that was excellent. We had a huge room packed. So thank you for that seminar and coming by. And, a lot of the tips that I'll be sharing are, from my personal experience, but I definitely, give a lot of value to your seminar because it gave me a lot of inspiration. But, of course, your show, I know you help empower others to kind of start their own crowdfunding projects. So, doing my own crowdfunding, and obviously I had a great team behind me, which I know you're a big proponent of as well, as setting up teams for your launch. But the lessons I've personally learned leading those teams are kind of threefold, and we can kind of dive into those however you want to chop them up. But number one, I think when you're starting a crowdfunding project, a lot of people always try to focus on the problem. And I guess this is more of a marketing issue, but a lot of people always try to get people to feel pity. And they say, oh, here's the problem. And they try to, really beat it over people's head and, really make people depressed kind of. So my first tip is don't focus on the problem. Focus on the solution. What solution are you crowdfunding for? And this way people like to get behind a solution, right? They want to see something happening. They know that the problem exists, but they want to see a solution. So that's my first tip.
Powerful tip. And it also allows you to avoid some of the critiques of crowdfunding propaganda about what we sometimes call poverty porn, right? So that we're not manipulating or in some way abusing or taking advantage of people in order to tell the story. When we focus on the solution, we can be positive and upbeat and we can ennoble and respect everyone in the process.
Yes. And of course, you do that very well with your show, right? With GoodCrowd.info. I mean, all of the stories you bring on, even in your writing in Forbes, is very inspirational. So I think a lot of people can actually learn a lot from you, really, just seeing as the host. How are you presenting all of these stories in such a positive light? And, you know, I think that's really the key. A lot of people can really benefit from that and get a lot more connection. So that's actually segues into my second tip, which is building a connection with donors. So a lot of the times, like, the problems that we try to tackle, especially in global health, can seem very foreign, right? It's not that every day, you know, most people don't even know someone who's been shot, you know, or seen violence firsthand. And that creates a very foreign, you know, relationship with that problem. Same way with human trafficking. You know, most people don't see that on a day-to-day basis or even heard about it in the news because it's such a taboo topic. And of course, I always try to focus on the, you know, under talked about topics. So, you know, the second thing I realized in crowdfunding is you have to try to build a connection and give someone a real life perspective of how is this relevant for them, wherever they are. And that helps people build the connection to the problem, the solution, and really bring it down to their own level, right? How is this going to impact me today in where I sit today? And
Yeah,
so,
and one of the really powerful nuances there is that your friends, the people who know you, they'll feel an instant connection to the problem if they feel like you have a connection to it. You personally, right, Shri?
yes, I mean, from my personal perspective, I haven't, you know, I've been very fortunate. I haven't, you know, dealt with trafficking myself or even violence, but you know, I have a very good friend, Stacey Spencer, who, you know, was the victim of an accidental shooting, well, when she was much younger. And you know, it kind of just makes you think, right? Like when you hear people's stories, there's people who are still dealing with some of these issues. And you're right, you know, when someone hears a story or your own story, they'll be able to connect. But I think my personal take on it is, you know, especially for human trafficking, is doing more research. You know, one of the things that connected me to the issue is watching a TED Talk. And it sounds so simple, but just a video on the internet helped me get so connected. It was that piece of content that helped me connect to the problem. So, you know, in crowdfunding, I know that one of the things that we utilized is really putting out a lot of content so people can really get connected to the issue more.
Well, Shri, what's your third tip?
Yeah, thank you, Devin. And my third tip is kind of simple, but it's always kind of overlooked. And it's more of the psychological aspect, if you will, of crowdfunding. And it's hard, right? It's always hard. It's hard to get a project through the hoops. It's hard to connect with a nonprofit. It's hard to actually start getting that money from people and getting people to back your solution and your cause. But one thing that I would tell every single person that's watching this show, that follows you diligently, is interested about making the jump into a crowdfunding project, is don't ever be afraid to fail. Because, you know, one of my favorite quotes is by, you know, Theodore Roosevelt, and it's about the man in the arena. And it's essentially, it's a very long quote, but it basically says, you know, don't stop fighting the good fight. Even if you fail, you can start another project and another one and another one. Lower your limit, right? Shoot for 100,000. Okay, you didn't reach that. You failed. That's fine. Go for 50,000, then go for 10,000, go for 5,000, go for 1,000. But no matter what, you're fighting a good fight, right? And you can sympathize with this. So don't ever stop fighting the good fight. It's always going to be hard. No one's telling you it's easy. There's a lot of tactics, strategies, of course, that you teach that will make your journey a little bit easier. But don't ever forget why you started in the first place, right? You started to help somebody in a different world, or maybe your own world. But don't ever stop fighting the good fight, because that's what's going to really take you to the end goal. And, you know, you'll be able to reap the rewards of success, and maybe even come onto your show, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, Shri, those are great points. As you reflect on your life and career so far, what are you most proud of having accomplished?
I would say more than anything else, aside from career, aside from writing or speaking, I really am very proud of the relationships that I've built in my life, because I think that's something that, you know, you can't take money to the grave. You definitely can't take your resume to the grave, right? So all of that stuff is very superficial. But one thing that I know is your relationships almost last forever. It's like a soul connection. Like even how we met, it was very instant. And so the people that I've been very fortunate to connect with throughout my life have continued to inspire me, and I'm able to inspire them, and we support each other's work. And in that, you know, one of the quotes I very heavily believe in, and I have in my office as well, is a rising tide lifts all the boats. And I truly believe that. You know, for good things to happen in the world, it's not just one person. And of course, I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's not just one person. It's the good crowd, right? It's everyone helping each other, and those relationships will help create a bigger impact. I mean, even the projects I did with CaringCrowd, it wasn't just me. I'd be, very remiss to say it was just me. It was about 10 other people on my team who helped me crowdfund as well. So, I'm really proud of everything is my relationships with good people.
Excellent. Well, Shri, as you were sitting back in your comfortable Eastern U.S. lifestyle, what made you feel a desire to do these projects for these two organizations, for the Giffords Law Center and for Polaris? What motivated you?
Yeah, thank you. So I guess starting with gun violence, right? So gun violence and Giffords organization. So Giffords, the reason why I really felt compelled to do something for gun violence in America was kind of two reasons. One, of course, everyone in America obviously knows the news. There's a lot of shootings that are happening in corporate, even in movie theaters, even in schools. Obviously, that's the most drastic. And so the reason I felt compelled to do something about gun violence is because a lot of people, when they hear gun violence, they automatically think I'm saying gun control. And what's interesting is that it's not the same thing at all. Now, the reason why it's a public health issue, right, is Bloomberg Initiative also picked it up, and American Public Health Association also picked up gun violence. Because what's interesting is if you look at the statistics, children in America are about 23 times more likely to be shot by a gun through violence. Now, this could be accidental, it could be suicidal, it could be homicide. Those are a plethora of reasons. But the reason I felt compelled to do something about it is because I'm seeing it all around me, right? There's no one who can deny that we want to live in a safer world. And I also don't believe, I know people who own guns as well, and I don't believe in gun control. I think there's very responsible people who own guns for their public safety, and obviously because of their constitutional right to do so. But I just wanted to get the conversation going, saying, hey, here's the public health issue. Here's Giffords that's creating independent research that can be utilized to further the fight. Because what had happened previously, and this is changing right now as we're speaking live, but federal funding for gun violence research actually got stopped in the 1990s for the CDC. So they were really relying on independent research efforts. Now, it's hard to kind of advance public health if you don't have the research to back you up. So that's why our project came, and I felt compelled to say, hey, let's support independent research, and let's see, how is this a problem, right? Let's research it. And it's not about gun control. I'm very against gun control, actually, but I do believe in safe gun regulation and, just making sure that everyone is safe, right? That's really the premise, right? Public health is maintained. And yep.
Excellent. Well, Shri, what is your superpower?
My superpower, I would say, I don't think, this is not a question you get asked every day. I would say if I have any superpower, it's I'm able to see issues that are kind of foreign, like human trafficking, for example. Although it's occurring all around us, it's happening in the shadows. But I'm able to kind of personalize it to some degree. And I guess it's a superpower in public health because that helps you gain that passion and that fire to do projects that are very important. So if I have any superpower, I'm able to see other people's issues, like I guess empathy. I'm able to see other people's issues and personalize them and understand how can I help them.
No, fantastic. Well, Shri, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. Really appreciate your insights and the great work that you've done at CaringCrowd. My gosh, the money you've raised, the difference you've made, I commend you for that. So thank you very much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Devin, for your time, and good luck with the show. It's definitely helping a lot of people in the world. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you, and good luck to you and all the good work that you're doing.
Thanks, Devin.
All righty, let's do some good.
At CaringCrowd, we believe everyone has the power to make a difference. Through our crowdfunding platform for community health, we empower passionate people to drive real change. Whether you work for a nonprofit organization, volunteer, or want to get involved for the first time, you can post a campaign on CaringCrowd. Join us, because caring is where change begins.
Thank Thank you for listening. Devin Thorpe's mission is to end extreme poverty, improve global health, and mitigate climate change before 2045 by finding and sharing the stories of those who are doing the most good. You can join with other listeners to accelerate Devin's mission by visiting helpdevin.org right now.